Okay, I'm back again with my story. I just did a Bible study on the indwelling of the Holy Spirit. Now I'm going to go back to my story. Father God in heaven, today is August 22nd, 2026. I'm going to start going through my story, the experiences you gave me. Father God, I ask that you guide me, and that this is of you. If it's not of you, stop the video. If it's of you that I continue to do this, I ask that you give me the courage and the peace. I ask that this is of you, and that, like I said, if it's not of you, just stop it. Help me to do this for your glory. In your Son, Jesus Christ's name, amen. Okay, I'm going to take a drink. Sorry. Okay. So I'm not sure last time everything that I talked about, but it was it was about everybody, all of my step family and my real family just leaving me with my dad, and how I tried to run away a few times, how I learned what my dad was doing was wrong, and I didn't understand what he was doing was wrong. I didn't know that there was a different way of having, father-daughter relationship, and how a little biracial little boy was the first Black person I'd ever met, and how he was being so tormented by the people that I went to my school, and how I understood his how he felt because of the things that I was going through. I couldn't help him because I was very young myself. I think that maybe I was 10 to 12 the first time I saw him. I don't remember the exact age, but I was very young, and I couldn't have helped him even if I wanted to, because I didn't have the the following. I was a very secluded child. I was a very I was one that was, I don't even think that he was on the same bus that I was on. So I couldn't have jumped off my bus and got onto his bus. But he was, I would not have been able to understand how to help him. I didn't understand the circumstances. I didn't, I didn't know how to help myself. So anyway, I don't even know the kid's name, and so yeah, it was the first time. Anyway, so going back to my reading, doing homework after getting home from the Feast of Tabernacles, a religious holidays during the month of the autumn months. We would have to get permission to go on these trips, and get prearranged homework so we would not lose time in class. The Feast of I don't think that I ever got my homework done as much as I should have, and I always waited to the last minute till we got back from the feast. I never did it on time, and nobody ever made sure that I did it. Nobody ever said, okay, we need to make sure. I mean, I was gone for nearly 2 weeks, and none of the people that my parents or my older siblings said, hey, we need to get this homework done so you won't be late or anything. And then it was always a rush to get it done. And my stepmom wouldn't help. I mean, she would help me with it in that she would make me do it. She would make me, and to be honest, I'm glad that she did, because I know how to read and I can understand context now where I wouldn't have if she had helped me or just given me the answers. She would always say something like, if I didn't understand the word, she would say, well, read the paragraph or read the sentence, and what does it mean in that sentence? So that's how I learned what the context, how to read a word in the context and put it, and understanding the meaning of a word in the context of a sentence. So anyway, and prearranged homework so that we would not lose time in class. The Feast of Tabernacles would last for about a week, but the travel time would take us out of school for up to 3 weeks. There was, I don't remember 3 weeks, but maybe. There were other religious holy days, but they didn't require us to be taken an extended amount of time out of school. Let's see. I don't remember them all, but we didn't do Christmas or any secular holidays other than Thanksgiving. That was the only secular holiday that we did, because it was Thanksgiving and not like, say, Christmas, Christ's birth. I mean, Christmas has turned into such a secular holiday that it's not even about Christ anymore. It's about the gifts and Santa Claus. I don't even do Christmas now. I don't have any kids or anything. I don't really give gifts, or unless they're like homemade or something, just because that's not what Christmas is about. Christmas is about the death of Christ. Although the Worldwide Church of God would vehemently be against that. They would say that there's no reason to celebrate Christ's birth because he wasn't, he was just a prophet. He was just a man. So yeah, we don't celebrate Christmas for totally separate, different reasons. So many times I would end up doing all my homework the night we got back. So many times I would frantically be doing and asking for help with math and reading. And like I said, my stepmom, even though she thought I'm grateful that she didn't help me with the homework, because I wouldn't have learned. I remember going chicken picking with the church. It was a way of making money. I think I already read this part or something, because I remember just talking about, maybe I just went off on a memory or something, but church is a way of making money or something, for something. If my dad and my stepmom were still together, I don't recall. It feels like they weren't. Chickens, but there may have been some times that they were. I mean, because my stepdad and my mom were married off and on. They got married and then divorced and then remarried, and then she left after my stepsister made it clear to my stepmom that my dad was sexually molesting her. The chickens are kept in these long, huge structures, thousands of them, and they could not move, and many of them had leg problems. Many of them did not have leg problems and would run around, and we would have to chase them. The idea was to grab 3 chickens in each hand. I was in grade school at that time, so I could not grab 3 in each hand. But I would try really hard. I would try my hardest to get 3 in my hand and bring them to the waiting truck, an 18-wheeler that carried cages the birds would be stuffed in. Our job was to get these chickens by one leg, 6 altogether, 3 in each hand, and bring them to the truck. I don't know where everyone else was. I vaguely remember other siblings, but I kind of feel like this was during the time that my stepmom and dad separated. I was not taken well care of and got chicken mites or chicken lice in my hair. I remember sitting at my desk at school and pulling the mites. I think I told this, I said this my last video, but this is it in writing. Lice eggs, pulling the lice eggs off strands of hair. I had long hair and had learned to feel for the nits on my hair and then pinch the hair from the scalp, from the very root of the hair, and pull the pinch to the end of the strand of hair. Sometimes there were 5 to 7 nits or more on one strand of hair. I always had long hair because our church, Worldwide Church of God, taught that it was a woman's glory to have long hair, and if you cut the hair, it was against God. It was kind of like that Mennonite feel. At school, I was always alone. I did not know how to interact with other kids. On one hand, I felt superior, and this is a real weird dyslexic part of my growing up. Because of the religious belief, I felt that I was in this church that was the church. It was the only church that Christ, or that could be saved. Nothing to do with Christ, but it was the only church of only people that were only the people in this church would be in heaven, or or with God or whatever. And so it was a real dyslexic way of being. I did not know how to interact with other kids. On one hand, I felt superior because of the religious belief. On the other hand, I felt dirty and small, and I was not really taught to take care of myself. And I would go to school with dirty clothes. I can only imagine that I was not the most pleasant smelling person. It's true. I mean, there were times in my life where when my stepmom there were times that it was very clean. I mean, we had the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and so we would have to go through the house and clean everything up to make sure that we got all the unleavened out of the house. And those were the times when it was really clean. And then my stepmom would go through these depressions, or she wasn't there, and and there was nobody there to clean the house. So we would go through periods of just being really dirty, and piles of clothes everywhere, just dirt. And my dad had a junkyard basically in the front yard. We had cars and just automobile parts and just parts, and it was just if I lived in that part of the country, I would be considered a hillbilly almost. I mean, there wasn't any inbreeding kind of thing going on, but you could look at, I don't think that you could have seen very much of a difference between that kind of lifestyle and what I grew up in. The only difference is that we had the Bible, and that, again, I'm very grateful to my dad for at least giving me that to know about. I remember going to school with a rag around my neck, specifically, probably, it could have been a rag, but they like to put like old socks, use old socks as the things that go around your neck. I had lice and pink eye. I remember going to school with a rag around my neck and Vicks Vapor Rub on to get rid of the cold, and the patch over my eye with the Vicks Vapor Rub under it to make because I had pink eye, and the idea was that you're supposed to cry it out, cry out the infection of pink eye. Later, I learned that you get pink eye from cow or farm animal poop. So I don't. Maybe I was getting it from the chicken. Catching chickens, I don't know, and because I wasn't taught hygiene, I wouldn't wash my hands or anything, and so I would get stuff in my that's the way I grew up. I was very not only was I isolated in my family with everything that was going on with my family, I was isolated at school, and even though I was in foster homes, they apparently it wasn't foster home esque enough for them to say, hey, your kid always has lice, and your kid always has pink eye, and your kid always has a cold. Obviously, you're not doing. I mean, because if we had been in foster homes, at least twice that I remember as a very young child, like toddler age, and then after I ran away from home, I was put in foster homes again. But during that period of time, from the age of about I don't know 6 to 13, we just were allowed to stay with my dad and my stepmom. Anyway, we cried out the infection of the eye. The idea was the Vicks would make me cry out the infection in my eye, and I mean, the nurses at school didn't say, hey, that's not really sanitary. Don't bring your kid to school. I don't know. It worked, but it also the pink eye solution. It worked, but I also knew that the other kids made fun of me because of the way I dressed, smelled, and acted. I was very shy and a scared little girl. I had no friends at school. We were not to become friends with people outside of the church. I don't know if this is going to say it, but I remember all the other kids would be playing on the playground and doing all this other kind of stuff, and I would be sitting up against the wall and just watching. I remember that, and it was, but that's the way my life has been a lot. And we weren't supposed to make friends with people outside of our church. So there again, like how I'm a very young kid. There's so many different competing ideas. Like you are special because you're in this church, but you are in this school and you have these people that you can't communicate with, and you're so dirty. It was just it was chaotic. It was just not. It was hard. No one wanted to play with me anyway at school. I would sit by myself on the ground by a building and watch the other kids play, like I just said. Sorry, I'm reiterating what I'm talking about. Most of the time, no one would ask me to play. At a very young age, I understood that I was very different. Okay. At the very end, before I went away the last time, there was one girl in the hill that I did become friendly with. I think I was like 12 or 13 at the time. Her mom had built a house. It was supposed to be a barn. At least that is what she said, to get the permits for it to get built. I would walk up the hill with her. This was where I learned about smoking cigarettes. I started inhaling. I didn't inhale. No, I didn't inhale, but I learned how to smoke cigarettes with her, and I think it was 12 or 13 at the time. I don't remember. I would walk up the hill with her. This is where I learned about smoking cigarettes and about the gay lifestyle. She had pictures of an uncle in compromising positions, and I started smoking, but not fully inhaling. going back a little bit, my stepmom had a house cleaning job. She would go to the city, a bigger city than what we lived in. We lived in a very small town, very, very, very small town, and the bigger city was still very small, but then there was, it was still very small, but it was bigger than anything that I had lived in. I would go sometimes on these jobs with her one day, and I think I said this. I saw a black man running, a person in a jogging suit coming down the sidewalk while we were driving. My brain could not comprehend what I was seeing. This guy, because I'd never seen a black person. This guy was very dark skinned in his jogging suit with a jewel toned. I could not see his eyes, and so this person looked like a three-dimensional shadow with a jogging suit. It was it was a weird. My brain couldn't understand what I was seeing. During my last year at school, my little, this is what I was talking about. A little biracial kid started going to school. Kids started calling him names. I felt bad for him. My dad was awful, but he was not racist. I am grateful for that. We grew up thinking we were Jewish, because the church that I grew up in was a replacement theology church, and we took on the blessings of the Israeli people. I just assumed I was Jewish. That's I remember my great-grandfather ran away to a Jewish settlement in that could have been where that idea came from, and one of my sons did a 23andMe and found out that I am German and Irish. My grandmother is Irish, so okay, I'm sorry, I'm trying to read what I wrote. Okay, so this is what I thought maybe back then. My grandmother was Irish, so being that he felt that he was Jewish, he felt a kinship to darker skinned people. Maybe, I don't know. This is my guess about why my dad was not racist. Or, that could be why. I don't know. I could also have been, it could also have been the Bible. There are many things he got wrong about the Bible, and maybe one of the things that he got right about the Bible is that we're all from Adam and Eve. We're all descendants of Moses and Adam and the Tower of Babel and all that kind of stuff. So we're all God's children. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's one thing he could have gotten right about his biblical views. And again, I'm probably going to reiterate that. It could also have been biblical. God made us all people, so to hate a race would be to hate God. That's why, okay. And our last name is in the lineage of Christ. But according to the Worldwide Church of God, Jesus is just another prophet and not distinct from the rest. He is not God. It is very confusing. But for whatever reason, my dad was not racist. I am grateful for that. The rest of the stuff he did, though, really damage my siblings and I. He seemed to pick and choose which rules, moral and biblical rules, to follow if they didn't get in the way of the things that he wanted to do. What he did made me question and distrust God, truly. I spent many years not trusting that there was a God, or that the God that he portrayed to me, that God I didn't want any part of. The God he would, here we go again, I'm reiterating, God I was presented with through my dad's religion and upbringing was divisive, cruel, and manipulative. Some stories from my older sister. My dad sent her away. She must have been about 15 or 16 or so. That is my perception at the time, because my oldest stepbrother and my oldest stepbrother and her were being intimate, or at least my dad thought so. So my dad would purposely set up situations. This is what she told me: set up situations that would lead to them being together, and try to catch them in the act. Very much like he did with me and my oldest stepbrother. He made us perform the act, or that he did on me. So he did the same thing with my sister. My sister was gone for a very long period of time. She said 9 months. Too. My oldest sister was punished so severely, and I had no idea about this, that by my dad, that she was either unconscious or near it. I feel like she said this happened in a house not on the hill where we lived. I'm not sure where the house was. She tells me that there were other places we lived in, but I only had the memory of the house on the hill. Well, no, I have the other memory of another house that we lived in, but the house on the hill is where most of my memories come from. In the beating, he kicked her in the back. I think that is when she said she passed out, and her back had given her trouble from that time forward. I could not imagine wanting to harm my own children like that. I cannot imagine wanting to harm anyone like that. My story from my middle brother, he told me that the reason that he left for the last time, my dad tried to spank him, beat him while he was in the shower naked, and my dad had some issues with him. I'm not sure what they were. I mean, if he was in the shower, maybe it was that he was taking too much hot water. And like I said before, maybe it was a sexual thing, or maybe it was that he wanted to catch him in a very vulnerable position where he had no clothes on to show his superiority. That's kind of what people that like to physically harm other people. But also remember, my dad was put in charge of beating his brothers and my uncles because he was the oldest child, after my grandfather could no longer do it. So this is how this is what my uncle told me. So this is the mindset of my dad. He was mostly a horrible guy, but there were little parts of him, like having the Bible, or not being racist, that didn't redeem him, but I'm glad that these things he didn't also perpetuate to us. Sorry. Yeah, so the issue, I think it was something about taking all the hot water. My dad, felt it was necessary to spank him then and there. My brother was 15. My brother had had enough. He had turned the tables on my dad and told him that he was not going to beat him anymore. I have explained the severity of the beatings my dad gave. Yeah, my dad, like I said, he beat me from the middle of my calves to the middle of my back, black and blue, and I didn't want to take a shower in PE because I was ashamed. I don't know if that's going to come up or if I've already explained that, but anyway, I've explained the severity of the beatings my dad gave under the guise of teaching. Okay. Teaching lessons or loving punishment. This was about 2 weeks after my stepmom left, I believe, for the last time that day my brother said he was starting to. That day, my brother said he was starting to plan his escape. Yeah, and I was going to be there alone. I remember when he was planning to leave, I knew that something was going to happen. I just didn't understand what the implications were. He got in a fight with one of the kids on our hill, and a few of the other kids stood around and instigated the fight. I thought, yeah, I've already read this. Maybe not. That was the first time I heard the word nigger. For some reason, the kids instigating were shouting fight, nigger, and white. There was no black person there, so I don't understand where that was coming from. I don't know what that meant. Soon after that, he gave me a game or something that he had borrowed from a kid in his his friend at school. The kid had a sister in my class. I think by that time my brother was in high school and I was in middle school. He asked me to give the borrowed item to his friend's sister who was in my class so that she could give it to her brother. And he could leave without feeling guilty about not giving back whatever it was that he had borrowed. I knew that there was something wrong. He was gone after that. He didn't come back home. I was sad and angry and scared. I was all alone. I'm sorry, I didn't know it was going to bring up. Oh. I'm nearly 60 and it still hurts. Sorry. I'm not sorry, but it's just nobody likes to be heard or seen crying. I just didn't know this. Gonna hit me so hard again. It always hits me hard. One of the stories he told me about years after he left, I don't know if he had an idea of where he was going. I don't know any of that. He did end up with one of my aunts and uncle and her family in the end, and he was able to learn a skill that carried him through and made him very successful. But when he was on the run, he was offered a ride by a trucker. He said this trucker wanted to get sexual with him. I don't think that he did, but he understood that people out there were bad. But not as bad as our dad. No, there are some people that are much worse than our dad. It just hurts me that he left me there. I don't have a relationship with any of my family anymore. We've tried, but my sister, my oldest sister, is still in this religion, and we can't even. She won't even have a discussion with me about the Bible. She's so into this religion. So this is another day. I want to start writing. I want to start writing day off with a prayer. This writing day off with a prayer. This is, after all, the idea behind the collection of memories, and where God was when I felt that I was alone. First, today is the second day that the trucker convoy in Canada. It's going to go into some political stuff. Honestly, when I came back onto the narrow path, I never was on the narrow path. I thought I was. But when I learned that I needed to get on the narrow path, I felt I was relieved that I had made it in the time for the last call, so to speak. I was glad, because then I wouldn't have to go through more. I would be in jeopardy of sliding again. That's not true. I'm still, it's 5 years and it's still very hard. Hardening my heart again, and possibly to the point that God would no longer accept me back. Well, I've learned a lot since writing this, and I know that we slide and we can go, that we can fall 7 times, and as long as we seek God and we ask for forgiveness and reach out to God, He'll accept us back. Hold on, I'm sorry. That is what scares me the most at this point. That I will again become lazy to the point of being talked out of my faith. No, I'm not going to be talked out of my faith. I understand it now. I was talked out of it before, and that would have meant that I was not with God. If I can be talked out of my faith, it means I never was with God. And that's the 10 years that I was walking with what I thought that I was saved, and I wasn't. Okay. The other horrible fear that I have right now is for my kids and siblings. We, as children, were led spiritually and religiously into such an unbiblical ideology. I'm scared for my kids and my siblings. I'm afraid that I led my kids into a path that was not to Christ, and that's true. I'm grateful for my daughter, but my son, I have two babies that I gave up for adoption. One that lives in the same state as I live in, and she wants nothing to do with me. She was raised in a quote-unquote Catholic house, and she is totally against God. She wants nothing to do with me. But I'm grateful for my daughter, that that God let me have her, and that God put us together. She's accepted Christ. She's walked away from being detransitioning. She had changed everything about her almost to a male persona, and she's been walking with Christ for a long time now. And she goes through a lot of struggles too, and I go through a lot of struggles, and I'm grateful that God gave us the ability to be together. She's been my strength, and I've been her strength, and I'm grateful for that. I've let my kids down terribly and pray every day that they will be able to see how far off the path I took them, so that they can be still a minute and let God talk to them. That's my son. He hates me too. I have a grandson that I haven't seen in many years, and I've only seen him a handful of times. So, but my son hates me. And thank you, God, for all the people that I was able to watch during the time of the COVID and all of that stuff, that you brought me to a very biblical teachers like Mike Winger and Living Waters and John Barnett. Those are my the people that I learned a lot of my biblical information from, that I would that God pointed me to. There's only one thing with, like, say, John Burnett, and he thinks that, and also Mike Wingers, they think that people that are, say, like Calvinistic or believe in the Trinity, but believe that and this is Calvinistic, that believe that we don't have a choice to accept Christ. I don't know how you can have that ideology and have a Christ center, because that's totally separate from Christ. There's no way you can have that. That's like being calling yourself a Christ follower and not understanding how the Jewish the things that are going on. I'm trying to. Oh, it's the bird up there. It's like, what is that noise? How the Jews are not replaced by the Christians or the Christ followers, where they're not. God gave them the Gospels. God gave them the word to give it to the rest of the world. They are not. Their fulfillment is not done. And to say that they don't, God has no role for them is just, it's unbiblical, and it's against God. So those kinds of things I don't understand, like how, and John Barnett also, I mean, I guess I already said that, but how they feel that those people that the Calvinists can be Christ followers, or like Catholics that still believe in perdition, or in what is it called, where you can pray people out of hell, or out of that, what is that called, where they have a waiting room for hell or a waiting room for heaven, or whatever, that we can pray for them to get them out of hell. If you are Catholic and you don't understand, or you haven't read your Bible enough to understand that you can't pray someone in or out of hell, that's just, I don't understand that. I don't understand how, like, Mike Winger or John Barnett can say that some of those people might be saved. Some of them might be saved, but you can't be saved with that ideology of God not giving us free will, or that some people, he created some people specifically for hell. That's a Muslim ideology that some people are created for hell. No, that's not 3 John 3:16-18 says. It says he gave, that he came to save the world, for those who believe in him. I'm getting a call.